Now I'd like to provide you with some information about your constitutional rights during law enforcement encounters. What are those rights? Your rights come directly from the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution. There are 3 amendments in particular that play the biggest role in law enforcement encounters. The 4th Amendment states in pertinent part, quote, "The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated," end quote. The 5th Amendment states in pertinent part, quote, "No person shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law." The 6th Amendment states in part, quote, "In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to have assistance of counsel for his defense," end quote. Now let's talk about how to deal with police encounters when pulled over while driving a vehicle. When pulled over by law enforcement, a good safety precaution is to turn the car off and place your hands on the steering wheel. Wait until an officer asks you to get documents before reaching into your glove compartment or any other part of the vehicle, so that the officer has a clear view of your hands at all times. If you are asked a question like, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" and you answer it by saying something like, "I guess I was speeding, officer," you have immediately waived your 5th Amendment right by admitting to breaking the law. Do not confess. Instead, calmly and courteously ask, "Good afternoon, officer. Why did you pull me over?" There is no need to fully roll down your window when an officer approaches your vehicle. Just roll it down enough so that you can hand the officer your documents that are requested, and that is all that is needed. This way, the officer cannot stick his head inside the vehicle and claim that he smells or sees something inside your vehicle. But if the officer asks you to roll down the window all of the way, it is generally a good idea to do so. If asked to step outside of the car by an officer, make sure to close and lock the door behind you so as not to allow the officer an easy search entry. If you have contraband and you consent to a search, you will be arrested. Anything you say will be used against you in court. Some good things to say if you're pulled over include, "Am I free to go now?" "Are you detaining me?" And if the situation escalates, "I do not consent to any searches." By refusing a search, it does not give the officer the right to search your vehicle or detain you. That is not probable cause. Never complain about a traffic ticket, just take it and move on. This way the officer is less likely to remember you and despise you. If you need to, you can always contest it later in traffic court. When are the police allowed to search your car? Police officers do not need a warrant if they have probable cause to suspect that there's some criminal activity going on. Before searching, the officer must observe something that leads them to believe that a criminal activity has happened. This could include some things such as seeing a pipe, or seeing a bag of marijuana, or smelling an odor of marijuana. This is known as the plain view rule, and it also encompasses things such as plain smell. This means keep your private items private and out of sight. Lock them in your trunk of your car, for instance. Giving an officer consent to search automatically makes the search legal in the eyes of the law. If you refuse to consent to a search and the officer lacked probable cause and the officer searches anyway, that is an illegal search. Even if the officer does find contraband or evidence of illegal activity, it could be thrown out in court once your attorney files a motion to suppress. If the judge agrees that the search was in violation of your rights, you could be free to go. Now let's talk about dealing with police encounters on a public street. When asked for an ID by the officer on the street, it is not always required to do so. Don't ever talk back or raise your voice to a police officer. Give officers courtesy and respect. Never physically resist or touch an officer. Do not ever consent to a search. Do not make statements to law enforcement, and never run away from police. If you see police approaching, stand your ground, assert your rights, but never run. Ask for an attorney, do not answer questions, and do not consent to any searches. Now let's discuss police encounters at your home. When are police allowed to search your home? The United States Supreme Court has ruled that the home is entitled to the maximum protections afforded under the Fourth Amendment to be free from searches and seizures. Police may not search without a warrant. Do not consent to a search. Be aware of who is entering and exiting your home. Never lie to the police, but you do not have to answer their questions. Greet guests at the door, look through a peephole or other window, and if police are there, go outside and quickly close the door behind you. You can tell them, "I can't let you inside without a search warrant." Or you don't simply need to open the door at all. You are not required to open the door to law enforcement. There are some instances where a search warrant is not required to search your home. One of these is if there is an emergency situation. Law enforcement may be able to enter to try to protect people who are inside, either from violent acts or from fires, floods, or other sorts of natural emergencies. Law enforcement would be allowed to enter without a warrant in that sort of situation. Similarly, if they are in hot pursuit of a criminal, they may be able to enter without a warrant. There are some other exceptions to the search warrant outside of the house. For example, airport security do not need a warrant to search you or your belongings. Anytime you enter security to board an airplane, you've consented to a search. This same exception applies when you cross international borders with the United States, or when you arrive in the United States at an airport or port from out of the country. When you are crossing a border, you have consented to a search. These border searches can also occur within the United States after crossing. Private security personnel at events generally do not have to have a warrant to search you without consent, because they are not governmental actors. In review, the important things to remember are: 1, I do not consent to a search. 2, I want to remain silent. 3, I want to talk to my lawyer.